The Adirondacks are a victim of their own popularity. For example, on a given summer day, almost 500 people set out from the Adirondack Lodge to hike Mount Marcy or Algonquin or Colden or Phelps. 500 people every day. The state is deep in a quandary about what to do about it. The latest proposal: fewer parking spots at trailheads and no overflow along the road. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com. And the Devlin Inn and Suites, Lake Placid, welcoming families, athletes, and groups to the Olympic Village, offering Adirondack mountain views and dog-friendly accommodations. TheDevlinNY.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, April 15th. First up, while many people in New York are aghast at rising electric bills, several municipalities in the North Country have some of the lowest rates in the state. But as Kara Chapman reports, the state will raise those rates for the first time in more than a decade.
The city of Plattsburgh buys what's called preference power. That's cheap hydropower from the state that comes from the Niagara and St. Lawrence rivers. The rate the state charges for that power hasn't gone up since 2014. Starting this month, the New York Power Authority, known as NYPA, will start phasing in a $10 per megawatt hour increase over the next 6 years.
A lot of it comes back to their debt.
That's Plattsburgh Mayor Wendell Hughes.
Once they reach the $25 million debt, they have to look at their rates.
That trigger happened 2 years ago. At the end of 2024, NYPA had $51 million in debt. Eric Bowers, a vice president with NYPA, told the Plattsburgh City Council last month that was due to multiple factors.
The increases in operation and maintenance, administrative and general, and the capital expenses.
NYPA initially proposed tripling what it charges for hydropower over a 4-year period. They scrapped those rates amid opposition from Governor Kathy Hochul, customer advocacy groups, and local governments. The newer proposal, which Hochul approved last month, is a much lower increase and forgives NYPA's debt. NYPA estimates that, for the typical household, it'll mean an annual increase of less than 3% on electric bills. That's about $1 to $2 per month, depending on energy usage. Hughes says there are other perks to the new agreement. It ensures the city and its fellow preference power customers will continue to receive the low-cost hydropower until 2040, and it puts safeguards in place for what NYPA can spend its profits on. Hughes says losing the state's hydropower would have been debilitating for Plattsburgh. The city would have had to go out on the open market for power at a time when New York's utility bills are higher than they've been for more than a decade. The other preference power communities in the North Country also didn't want to take their chances. The villages of Tupper Lake, Lake Placid, Theresa, Rouses Point, Boonville, and Philadelphia, and the town of Messina all signed the new agreement with NYPA. Still, with rising costs all around and electric bills already higher due to a cold winter, Hughes says the higher rates couldn't have come at a worse time for residents.
What kills me is when we're putting people in a position where they're trying to figure out if they should pay their bills, buy food, or medicine. That should never happen.
The city has a list of social services agencies on its website for those who need help paying their bills. Hughes says he continues to lobby the state to rein in its utility costs. The new NYPA rates will be reflected in residents' upcoming bills. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
A new report recommends strict parking limits at popular Adirondack trailheads. It's part of New York's effort to tackle overcrowding on certain hikes and summits. The public has from now until June to weigh in on those recommendations. Our Adirondack reporter Emily Russell reports.
So I'm standing here at the trailhead for Cascade Mountain, which is one of the 46 high peaks in the Adirondacks. And you can hear it's right along a busy road, Route 73. And Cascade Mountain is one of the busiest trailheads in the park. On one day in August of 2023, there were 93 cars lining this busy roadway. It's dangerous, with hikers and young kids crossing the road. That same month, there was overflow parking at Cascade on every single day except one. Jackie Bowen from the Adirondack Council spent many summer weekends for years counting cars and collecting hiker data at the Cascade Trailhead.
And I could see the need. I could see people parking in poorly chosen locations, creating safety concerns for folks. And so this is an issue that's been on the forefront of my plate here at the council for a long time.
Other green groups and local leaders have also called attention to the issue over the years. They've highlighted not only parking shortages and unsafe road conditions, but also the impacts of crowded summits and eroding trails. So in 2019, the DEC formed the High Peaks Advisory Group. The following year, the group released its list of recommendations. One thing it called for was a visitor use management plan. It's a kind of framework used by land managers like the National Park Service. These plans try to strike a balance between enhancing visitor experiences and protecting the natural environment. Earlier this month, the DEC released its High Peaks Visitor Use Management Plan. Bowen from the council says it's an important first step towards sustainable management of the park's most popular areas.
We really are a world-class recreation destination. We need modernized, world-class management tools to help us protect this place, especially as we start to see rollbacks at the federal level. This is an opportunity to really protect what we have here in the Adirondacks.
Some key questions posed by the High Peaks Plan are about desired conditions. Like, how many people can you run into on a trail before it feels crowded? How many people is it okay to see on a summit before it feels crowded? Researchers collected data on the summits of Cascade and Mount Marcy in 2023. They used infrared trail counters and automated traffic counters. During weekends that summer, they found that an average of 445 people per day hiked from the Adirondack Lodge, which leads to key summits like Mount Marcy.
It's just crazy, the number of people, hiking Mount Marcy and Algonquin is just absurd.
Rick Preston is the supervisor of the town of North Elba, which includes Lake Placid.
There needs to be a line drawn somewhere.
From all the data and surveys collected, the report found that hikers didn't feel overcrowded if they had fewer than about 7 encounters on the trail 90% of the time. A view from a summit didn't feel crowded if there were fewer than 10 people 90% of the time. One way to achieve those desired conditions, according to the report, is by limiting parking. At the Adirondack Lodge, the report recommends banning all overflow parking. The lodge has 180 parking spots, but at times up to 100 additional cars park along the road. To manage a parking ban, the report recommends that the DEC and the town of North Elba deploy staff along the road. But Supervisor Preston says that's just not possible for the town.
From a resource standpoint, no, we do not have the resources to fund. I think they're calling for up to 4 individuals along Adirondack Lodge Road.
Courtney Koenig-Worrell is the executive director of the Adirondack Mountain Club, which owns and operates the Adirondack Lodge. She says the lodge can actually handle the amount of visitors it gets, even during peak summer weekends.
We don't find that there's an issue with crowding at our facility. And so our desire and motivation to really work on that type of enforcement, I think, is probably the lowest on the list right now of things that we want to work on.
Rather than emphasizing parking enforcement, Koenig-Worrell wants to see more resources go towards educating hikers and ensuring equitable access to the high peaks.
We could be doing a lot of education in the first 5-10 minutes after they get out of their car and just let them know some of the basics, and that could go really far.
Koenig-Worrell says ADK is still digging into the details of the High Peaks Plan, which is about 100 pages long. But one management strategy that ADK considers a tool of last resort is permits. A permit system has been in place for years at another popular High Peaks trailhead known as the Adirondack Mountain Reserve. In fact, everyone interviewed for the story described permits as a last option, including Kathy Pedler. She's the director of advocacy for ADK.
One of the issues with permits and limiting access in that way, you have to be really careful. You're not just pushing people to other places that maybe aren't as prepared to receive a higher number of visitors.
There are other changes in the works to help ease the strain on some of the high peaks. For example, the DEC is working to reroute the trail up Cascade Mountain. The hike would start from the Mount Van Hoevenberg Olympic Sports Complex, which has a big visitor center and lots of parking. That effort has been at least 8 years in the making, and it's unclear when the new trail will open. The DEC is accepting public comment on the High Peaks VUM until June 1st. It's also hosting a virtual public meeting on the report's recommendations next Wednesday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio, Lake Placid.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario, and Paul Myers of Colton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.